Make sure you warm up.
If you were in my mind at the moment that I was running, Superman would probably be a little bit slower than I was. Like, the perception, you feel like, well, how do we prevent injuries? And then if it happens, what do we do?
Do a self-evaluation and be honest with yourself. There's two kinds of warm-up. There's a general warm-up and a specific warm-up.
I started thinking that some people are not lucky enough to breathe air. Some people are not lucky enough to be outside, to be free, to have legs. And I'm like realizing that I have all this. I just put like gear number 5 or whatever. And then I started flying.
There's a fine line between not heavy enough to generate a change and build muscle, and then being too heavy, that's ludicrous. You shouldn't be trying to do that. It's corrective action, not corrective rest. If you're not moving the joint, you're not telling your body, hey, you're supposed to be working.
You need a network of support and all of them communicating with each other. And that's the purpose of Polish Your Life, because it's super important. Today I'm here again with Bronson Dant. He's an amazing person. He's health and fitness coach and just a big authority for me when it comes to sports and injuries, and I can see all his posts and I know that he is very, very knowledgeable. So I want to start with a story that happened to me, and I think a lot of you can relate because you can have a similar situation. And then I will have a very important question for Bronson to just give me advice what to do. But if you're in the same shoes, I mean, that's gonna help you a lot. So here's what happened. The pandemic starts and we have a lot of different things to do, and we are working so much, and maybe workouts are not the first priority. And then I got so excited at some point after maybe 5 months of being a little bit less active that I just started running. So I go out and I run a little bit, and then I practice gratitude as I always like to do. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, I'm 20-year-old again. I'm going to run faster. And as I'm flying and then, just feeling so amazing, I come back home and I'm like, woo, that was awesome. But then the following day I wake up and I feel my Achilles tendon hurting. I feel here and there different types of aches and pains. And I think a lot of us, then we realize we never did any kind of warm up. So the question to Bronson is going to be, well, how do we prevent injuries? And then if it happens, what do we do to actually kind of like home remedies to make sure we get back on track?
Okay. There's a lot of things to that. Particularly, I see this happen a lot with guys, right? I'm a guy over 40, right? And my mindset, my mental image has in the past kind of set me up for failure. So where I was thinking years ago before I got into fitness, I was thinking of myself in the self-image that I have of the 18-year-old, 20-year-old, in high school playing sports or in the Army, being young in the Army before I got old in the Army. And that self-image is stuck with me, even though I wasn't there anymore. So same kind of thing. You start trying to do stuff thinking that you're one thing and you're really not, because you haven't really done some self-evaluation and realized and admitted to yourself, hey, this is not where I'm at, right? So I think the first thing, particularly if you've been stagnant or unable to do something active for a while, would be to do a self-evaluation and be honest with yourself. Where are you? You're not going to be able to do if you've been locked down because of the quarantine and lockdown and COVID and everything else, and you've been isolated, and it's been 6 months since you did something, you're not going to be able to do the same workout today that you could do 6 months ago. You have to acknowledge that you're going to need to take a step back and work yourself back into that. Okay. As a general rule, for most things that are maybe a month, 2 months long, if you're taking say 2 months or 3 months off, I usually take half the time that you've been out and work a build-up plan till you get back. So if you've been out for 6 months, you can expect a good 3 months of working back to where you were 6 months ago. Okay, don't think, hey, I'm gonna, okay, yes, I acknowledge that I'm not where I was. I'll take a week and work back, and then a week from now, I'm gonna be able to go right where I was 6 months ago. No, it's not gonna work that way. Okay, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna be frustrated. Just take the time. There's no rush. You've got the rest of your life, right? It doesn't have to happen overnight. And you'll get back there. And because you did it the right way, because you took your time to build yourself back up, you'll be able to continue progressing and pick up where you were, as opposed to starting too fast, starting too hard, trying to jump back to where you were, getting hurt. And then you've got who knows how much time that you have to take off again, because now you're hurt and you can't work out at all. Right? So it's better in the long term to start slow and build into where to get back to where you were, as opposed to trying to jump right in. So that's the first thing, I think, mental, the mental aspect, the mindset of just acknowledging where you are. Outside of that, the practical stuff, like you said, warming up. Make sure you warm up. Warm up, a general warm up for whatever you're going to do. Whenever you're going to do any work, there's two kinds of warm up. There's a general warm up and a specific warm up. Okay, so your general warm up is just that activity that you do to tell your body and your central nervous system, hey, I'm about to do something that's going to be challenging. I'm about to spend energy. I'm about to use you. You need to get ready. Okay, so you do something that gets your heart rate up a little bit. You start moving your body, get your limbs loosened up, get your muscles warmed up, get that slight little sheen of sweat, maybe a little bit out of breath, but not like you're doing a hard workout. Just get things going. From there, that should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, right? Usually 5 minutes is pretty good. There should be another 5 to 10 minutes of what we call a specific warm-up, and that is the warm-up that is going to, as closely as possible, replicate the actual work you're going to do from a technique and movement pattern perspective, right? So if I'm going to do a workout that is, say, lunges and sit-ups and pull-ups, then I'm going to actually do some lunges and sit-ups and pull-ups. Maybe not as fast, maybe not as intensely, but I'm going to go through those motions and warm up the nervous system and the movement pattern. So my body's like, oh, this is what, okay, we're going to do something. Oh, this is what we're going to do. And then you can actually go do it at a higher intensity and your body's ready for it. Right? So 2 types of warm-ups, get them both in. During the workout, don't try to kill yourself. Okay? I had a problem with this. So for when you talk about running, I hate running. Okay, it's the Army completely destroyed me for running. Like I do it if it's in my program and I have to do it, I do it. I usually, the longest I'll run at a time is probably 400 meters. Like that's it, I'm done. I get about 2 minutes in, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do something else. I might do that like multiple times in a workout, but as far as a single individual instance, 400 meters and I'm good. It took me several years after getting out of the Army to realize that I didn't have to push my pace to the point where I felt like I was dying every single time I went to run, right? In the Army, it's, whoever's in front, stay with them, right? You got 20 guys, you're all going to run. Here's the time I want you to keep going. If anybody falls back, we're going to go pick them up, and then they got to run faster. Like there's just a mentality of running that is all about being forced to do it at someone else's pace. So I had that even when I was out running by myself, right? I had this picture of, I gotta die, but there was one day I went running and I was killing myself, and I got maybe half a mile, and I was like thinking to myself, like, why am I running so hard? Like, there's nobody else around me. I have no reason to be running this hard. So I slowed down. And then I was like, oh, maybe running's not so bad, like, duh, right? So in the workout, during the workout, you don't need to kill yourself. It doesn't have to be heavy, right? There's another thing that we tend to do, right? We see, the weight, and we want to just put weight on there. Oh, it's got to be heavy. Now, there's a fine line between not heavy enough to generate a change and build muscle, and then being too heavy, that's ludicrous. You shouldn't be trying to do that, right? So you need to have a challenging weight. If you're doing weight training, you need to have a challenging level of intensity, enough to actually see improvement in what you're doing, but it shouldn't be something that is going to push you past the limit of technique and form. Okay, and that's your dividing line between not enough and too much. Okay. It should be enough to be challenging, but not so much that you're losing form and technique and you're going to hurt yourself. Okay. That's kind of where that is. If you have a coach who can actually tell the difference better than you, then by all means do that, right? Coaching, that's one of the big things about coaching, is having someone who's got an objective view into what you're doing and can evaluate your performance from a safety and development progression perspective. So personal training, go to a group class that has coaches, something where you've got somebody who's got another set of eyes on you other than yourself. Because our own eyes on ourselves tends to not always be that accurate, right? And then at the end, you should cool down, right? So you warm up, you work at a applicable level and maintain form and technique, and then you cool down at the end, right? You tell your body, hey, I'm done stressing you out. It's time to turn on the parts of the central nervous system that are now responsible for controlling and recovery and growth and all those other things, right? We're turning off the fight or flight, and we're turning on the, hey, it's time to chill out and recover and build muscle and replenish energy and do all that other kind of stuff. So stretching is good, foam rolling is good, a cold shower is good. Things like that are good things that kind of turn on the parasympathetic nervous system and get you recovered. So those are probably the three things on top of mindset. I think mindset is where it all starts. I think you agree with that, right? Mindset is where it all starts.
Always.
And then the practical application of those three pieces.
Got it. And that's so good what you're bringing up, because you kind of like broken down the process. So the first, we need to be honest with ourselves and evaluate, right? So have some kind of a self-evaluation, self-assessment that will tell us exactly how it is. Not worse, not better, kind of like Tony Robbins says, but exactly how it is, so we know where we are. Then we have the warm-up general, right? Or kind of like a warm-up that is general, you said, right?
Yep.
General warm-up, and then the specific one that is going to be mimicking what we are about to do, but on a much smaller level, so our muscles kind of like know what's about to happen.
Yep.
And then when we do it, we make sure, and then pacing it, which is, if we were out, let's say for 3 months, we would be coming back for about 1.5 months and 6 months, and then so half of the time that we were out, we will use that time to kind of like get back to our maximum form, or the pre-break form, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then we get a little bit more tactical into, when you do certain things, making sure that we know where the line is between not enough to make progress and too much to hurt yourself. And if we don't have the line, I do get it. Health coach, personal trainer, those are the people who are able to objectively take a look. And then we also remember to cool down. I think that's very, very good to have this kind of structure in our mind, because as you were saying about the perception and having somebody from outside having a perception about us, if you were in my mind at the moment that I was running, like Superman would probably be a little bit slower than I was. Like, the perception, you feel like you're running, and then I'm thinking like, dude, it's like you haven't run. And it's not like I enjoy running that much. No, it's not my exercise of choice, absolutely. But when I ran and then I just felt it. When you practice gratitude, it's sometimes you have this amazing energy that comes to you. And I started thinking that some people are not lucky enough to breathe air. Some people are not lucky enough to be outside, to be free, to have legs. And I'm like realizing that I have all this. I just put like gear number 5 or whatever. And then I started flying. And it's so true, because the perception was absolutely not objective. You have somebody who is, I don't like to admit it, but over 40 right now, gently over, but man over 40, flying like a Superman, and then expecting everything to be cool the following day. In fact, I was so excited that I thought that I would keep repeating the same thing. So it's very good to just be more self-aware and know the tactical steps. So thank you so much for bringing it up. The second step would be, let's say, because I do have my own personal story, I also have neighbors and friends that I talk to and I want to talk about, and they come to me and they say, listen, I kind of like wasn't ready, and then I started working out. Because I see I have gymnastic rings in my garage. So they're like, I see your gymnastic rings. So, you motivated me. And I'm like, I don't even work out that much, right? That's the guy who had a break for 6 months almost. And they're like, you motivated me, so I started, but then I feel my knee and my back and this and that. So as much as I like to refer to the doctors in my network, and I did, and they are feeling better, thankfully, to my neighbor, I would like to know what people can do if they already feel like they did too much, but it's not enough to like go to the hospital or right away run to the doctor's office.
Yeah.
What are some of the home remedy type of things that we can all do that are generic, because you don't know the specific issues? Like for me, it was Achilles tendon that were super sensitive, and I never had them that sensitive. When I'm coming down the stairs, I still feel it, that it's, very sensitive. And then another thing is in my neighbor's case is their back, and they just feel like they overdid it. So what are some of the things when it happens?
That's a really difficult thing to answer, in the sense that because there's so many different things that people have that are little aches and pains and in their nooks and crannies and all the kind of different things, it's really hard to give a general, here's things you can do. I'll talk about types of things that if you have a problem, you can look into, and there may be something there that will be applicable to what your problem is. Okay. So we'll talk about myofascial release. Okay. Basically foam rolling. Okay. And that is like giving yourself a massage, right? So breaking up, a lot of people say breaking up scar tissue. It's not breaking up scar tissue. It's breaking up the fascia, which is basically the tissue that holds your muscle fibers together, right? They get tight. It just makes your muscles tighter. It makes things harder to move. It causes soreness, things like that. So basically you want to tenderize your meat, right? That's essentially what you're doing, tenderizing your muscles. Okay. So foam roller, lacrosse ball. If it's really tender, a tennis ball, right? It's softer and doesn't create as much pressure. But look up myofascial release. And there are different things you can do. If you have knee issues, you can do your quads, you can do your calves, you can do your shins. If you have shoulder issues, there's some spots in the back you can do, and even in your chest. Elbow issues, your forearms, your back of your arms and triceps. So there's a handful of different things as far as that technique goes. Like I said, foam roller, lacrosse ball, things like that. Another thing,
Quick question. Would you do that like right after the exercise? Would you do it the following day? When is a good moment to incorporate it?
For foam rolling, I have seen benefits before or after workout. But in general, if you're doing it because you have a chronic issue, I recommend maybe doing it throughout the day a couple times, regardless of when you're working out. Right? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to release and open and get some range of motion. The thing about foam rolling that a lot of people don't do is, if, for instance, if your elbow's sore and you're foam rolling the back of your arm and your forearm to help work, loosen things up and get your elbow not sore anymore, you also need to move your elbow, right? Don't just foam roll it and be like, okay, that's great. If you're not moving the joint, you're not telling your body, hey, you're supposed to be working. Let's do something. Okay. So there's a component of moving the joints as well. We know that the idea of rest when you're having joint pain, and this, I wasn't going to go here, but we'll talk about this real quick too. The idea of resting is good if you're having an issue. Resting as the sole solution for relieving pain is a mistake. Okay, because your body needs to move, right? So if I don't move my elbow, frozen shoulder is a perfect example of that. People have shoulder problems and they're told by the doctor, here, put your arm in this sling so that you don't do anything to damage your shoulder. And then 3 weeks later, they take the sling off, and then now this is the position their arm is stuck in because they can't move their shoulder, right? If you don't move a joint, it will stop moving, right? So
and that's
there's
from my experience with the doctor's offices. Luckily, through like all the years that I was working with them, I know some things, but I know for people it may not be that obvious. What you said about the elbow actually and the joint being moved while you're doing the exercise, same with knees. People don't realize how important that is, because this is what the joint is supposed to do. We're not supposed to just press on something that is in one place. And the same with rehab. A lot of rehab specialists right now kind of like evaluate, are you ready to move? And if you are, and most people are ready to move, then they advise, no, keep moving, just do it very, very gradually.
Yes.
instead of resting, like we see that with herniated disc issues, bulging disc, because of pain, people tend to take a break completely
Right.
with no movement. And sometimes, and the doctors are here to evaluate, but sometimes that's a big mistake because then
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
much harder
And
to
it,
build up.
yeah, and it's hard. There is that balance, right? I've got a herniated disc. I can't move. It hurts. Right. Well, let's try to address the pain, but we need to get you doing something because there is corrective action that can be taken, but only if you're taking that action. If you're just sitting there, nothing's going to get better.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
it's corrective action, not corrective rest. Right.
Yes,
So it
yes.
just doesn't, you got to do something. Okay. So we got foam rolling, we've got movement of the joints. We've got, there's a ton of other stuff, which I don't know if you've had doctors that have, and I'm just going to list out a couple of things. Dry needling,
Mm-hmm.
thing to get a professional to do. I don't know if you've had anybody talk about suction cup therapy.
Actually, I need to invite one of our doctors to talk about it. But yeah, I know it's very effective, and we have great providers here in
Okay.
the network to talk
And the
about it.
dry needling, people freak out a little bit, right? It's really not that bad.
I know.
I've done it.
Yeah.
Dry needling, honestly, is one of my favorite things to have done, because it doesn't hurt, right? But you can actually feel what's happening, and it's like you can feel the improvement in the movement or the issue, whatever you have. It's like, oh my gosh, like I can feel what's going on. It's really cool, especially if you get the ones that are like electrostim, where they put the needle in and then inside your muscle, they're stimming the muscle. You're like, oh my God, that's really cool. So dry needling, suction cup, cold therapy has had some amazing benefits on recovery and issues. So there's a couple cryo-freeze spots, places in the area. I don't know if you've had any of them on,
Yeah.
but even if you just there's some challenges I know of going on right now that are 30-day challenge of only take cold showers every day. Right.
Like
And
without the warm water at the beginning, just cold.
just cold
Wow.
showers.
Well,
Right.
I do take a cold end of the shower. I try to do it every day.
Yep.
I say I try, that's the key word. But I cannot imagine doing like 100%
Yeah,
cold.
just cold showers for 30 days. And I'm debating, I really don't want to, but I'm debating trying it myself to see if I notice a difference. But from what I'm hearing, the results are pretty amazing as far as people's recovery.
Wim Hof,
Their
right?
sleep is better, which means their recovery is better and all that other kind of stuff. That's another thing that you can do if you're having these aches and pains. It's inflammation. So we could go into a whole nother rabbit hole about anti-inflammatory things that you can do as far as diet and lifestyle and all that other kind of stuff. Try to remove anything that's causing inflammation in your life, stress, foods, get more sleep, all that kind of stuff. And that will help your body heal faster from whatever's going on.
This is awesome and very, very helpful, very practical. And just to be super clear with our viewers, we are having a conversation. It's a conversation between two friends. He happens to have a lot of experience with this stuff, so I value his opinion, but we are not treating any disease. We are not telling you, don't go to your doctor, do go to your doctor. In fact, ask us to recommend good doctors because we both know quite a few of them, not only in this area, but now across the world, actually. But I want to let you know that there are so many different options instead of just going like completely passive and saying like, no, I hurt my knee, I'm gonna just take a break for 3 months, because then your knee may not get better, but actually may get worse. So that's very,
let me
very
add one
helpful.
more. Let me add one more thing to that. All of the stuff we've talked about is stuff that you can do on your own. Okay. If you feel like you tried everything and none of that's working, find a professional who can work with you in a pre or post rehab scenario. Okay. Get with the personal trainer or someone who's got experience working through injuries with people and helping them improve before you need to go to a physical therapist. That personal trainer you may walk into the door of that personal trainer and they do their first evaluation and they go, you know what? You need to go to a physical therapist right out the gate. Like, this is not something, I don't know how you're even handling the pain, right? Go see somebody and get this fixed. They may say, I can work with you and we'll work around it and come up with a plan to help get you better. And then evaluate on a regular basis. The same thing if you are in physical therapy, or you've had to deal a surgery, or you've had any of that stuff happen, and you get out of it, you need a transition, and you need help with that transition from a professional. Don't just stop PT and then go about your life. That is the number one reason why rehab recidivism is high, because people stop their PT, which they only half-assed did anyways, right? And
Right.
then 3 or 6 months later, they're back because they re-injured or they did something else because they didn't learn, they didn't re-strengthen their body, they didn't learn how to move so that they didn't re-injure things, right? Most chronic issues when it comes to joints are because we're not moving our body properly to begin with. So over time, it wears down, right? So what you need to do, you can go get your rotator cuff repaired. That's awesome. If you don't learn how to move your shoulder properly after that, you're going to need it done again,
Yeah,
because
it's
you're
just
still
like
doing the
replacing
same
your.
things that will cause it to break down this. So you need to have some training after your physical therapy.
Yeah, just like a good analogy here that we were using in our physical medicine office was, if your alignment is off and then you keep replacing tires, you will have a big
Right.
problem. It's the same concept. It's just
Yep.
about our body, and how we maintain our body is very, very important. You brought up a very good point with PT and personal training / health coach that can work hand in hand. Not only that it's and I know you meant it. I just don't know if our viewers know that you meant that as well. So there's a hybrid option. It's not only one or the other. There's a hybrid. We have many people working with you and other people who are also in physical therapy currently. As
Yep.
long as you communicate and you know what the goals of PT are, and you're not interfering but helping one another, strengthening, that's very, very good. And that's why you need to work. If you work with somebody like that, work with somebody with experience.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
that's a really good point. I mean, I have athletes. I have regular people that I work with who are doing fitness, and they're going about their normal fitness routine, but they may have one little thing here, one little thing there, right? That they're seeing a physical therapist for, they're seeing a massage therapist or a chiropractor or whatever else for those little things, but they're still able to function and do most of what they normally do. They just have a small issue. So they're doing both at the same time. It's not, like you said, it's not one or the other.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I know you meant it. I just want to make sure our
Yeah.
viewers get it, because we have limited time and I don't want people to think it's one or the other. And Bronson, I'm speaking to our viewers here. Bronson is the best collaborator when it comes to like working together with PTs, with chiropractors. We did a series of videos with some chiropractors next to his area. This is the key, because you as a patient, you as a client, or you as a individual, you need a network of support and all of them communicating with each other. And that's the purpose of Polish Your Life, because it's super important to find that network instead of looking for it when you're in pain. That's not the time to look for it and do research, because quite frankly, you may be super stressed out and not fully yourself. So if you need any kind of referrals, always let us know, because those people are, as we speak, are referring, communicating, and helping more people. I have one important question to you, Bronson, as well,
Sure.
if you don't mind. So we talked about how to prevent injuries, how to have the right mindset. We talked about what to do if the injury actually happens, as long as it's not crazy. You know, we don't have to rush to an emergency room right away, but there are things we can do ourselves.
Yeah, it's just a little blood.
Yeah, it's just that, I mean, somebody said that if it's not, if it's not sprinkling, it's good. If
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that was a joke for any of you who may not have a sense of humor, and I don't think we have any viewers like that. So one important question for you is different than our story that we talk about, different than my story and my neighbor. We were motivated to do something, and we were actually too motivated because we did too much. But I know, and I want to be respectful of those situations. There are many people, when stress hits, when COVID hits, quarantine hits, we kind of not only lock down, but we also kind of like lock in and shrink when it comes to our own ability to motivate ourselves. And if you are one of those people, I want to ask Bronson for advice. So Bronson, what are some of the tips that you would give to people who really, maybe they were working out, but it's not anymore, and they feel like they feel ashamed to start because they know they can do better. And then because of that, they do nothing. So what can we do?
Gosh, well, you're gonna need like 3 more episodes.
And
right? Because
we can repeat, no
because
problem.
that, I mean, that could be a long conversation. I would say there's a handful of things. One, you the start, I guess, would be if I were trying to talk to someone and help them out, I would just say, hey, why were you working out in the first place? What was your motivating factor? What was it that got you to get up every day or every other day or whatever it was, to do that? If that hasn't changed, then why are you not doing it? You just got to ask yourself that. Are you letting the circumstances around what's happening in society hold you down, or is there something that's actually affecting you and stopping you from doing what you were doing? If there's nothing actually stopping you from doing what you were doing, then it's not really a matter of motivation. It's you need to recommit yourself to why you were doing it in the first place. There's a big difference between motivation and commitment, right? Commitment is what kicks in when motivation stops,
Yes. And
right?
it's so
So
much true.
you have to make the decision, are you going to do this or not? Right? It's harder than it sounds sometimes, right? Sometimes when we say that, it sounds like we're making light of that action, and it's hard sometimes to make that decision and do it. But reconnect with your why, reconnect with why you were doing it in the first place. If you can't, if you're not sure, well, maybe I was doing it for this reason and I just don't feel that anymore, whatever. Okay, great. What are the things about your life that you want to change now? Are you stressed because of COVID? Go work out. You will be less stressed. Are you feeling isolated? Go work out. Be around people, right? Are you feeling like you just don't have any energy and you just want to sit around at home all day? Go work out. You will increase your energy and you will feel like it will make you want to do more things every day, right? Every reason that you can think of not to do something is actually a reason to go do it, right? So if there's whatever thing that pops in your head that you're telling yourself, I'm not going to do that today because, change that to I need to go do that today because, and see if that helps reframe your perspective a little bit. So I would just say, get it back in touch with your why you were doing it in the first place. And if that doesn't work for you, look at the things in your life that you don't like and use those as your new why.
I love it. And the fact that you reconnect with your why, and at the same time, you didn't phrase it this way, but you're actually reconnecting with your why not.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
make your why not the why. This is how I hear what you're saying. This is amazing because just to recap, the reason for you not doing exercises sometimes is going to be the very reason, which doesn't make sense logically, but it is logical, right? Doesn't make sense logically, but it is logical. So if there is a reason why you're not doing something, let's say stress, and you're not doing it because you're stressed, that could be the very reason why you should do it.
Exactly.
Wow, so powerful. Seriously, so powerful. I want to share one small thing that may help me, that helps me, that may help you as well.
Okay.
So not necessarily you, because you don't have a problem with habits. I can see you on social media posting.
Everybody has problems with habits. Everybody has problems with habits.
Doesn't seem like you have major problems with habits. Okay. So one thing that helps me, if there is a habit that I want to, or there's something that I want to do, let's say I actually make a decision and I commit that I will be working out. What helps me is doing those small changes that will have a big impact long term, but they're small today and they're small tomorrow. But at the same time, they're habit building, and then faster than you think of that, actually your result happens. So instead of coming from like, oh, I'm either a person who is fit and works out or is not fit and doesn't work out, there is this whole, range of colors in between. It's not only black and white. So I encourage people to just grab, like I have resistance bands that are for girls, I would say, right? So I just take one, let's say I was able to do 3 or one of the thicker ones, then I just take one that is just, I'm glad nobody can see me, but now some people know about it because I'm sharing it. But I take the small one and I just start very, very gently. But then it does something not only to my muscle to trigger the effect that I want more, and I actually end up having a workout, but it also does something, I think, to it's a connection subconsciously to the feeling that you had when you were doing the bigger ones. And if you keep doing it over and over again, so basically those small changes, if you want to start walking, just walk around the block first instead of doing a big walk. Anything that can help you. And of course, if you need support, ask people who are good at what you want to do, and let them guide you, because many times we need somebody to hold our hand. And even this question, I can probably, I mean, I can Google it. I can look for some solutions. But I wanted to have a conversation with you, Bronson, and we didn't go as deep as this on the phone call. I said, let's record it, because it is a question that I think relates to a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to talk about habits, there is a good book called The Power of Habits, which I don't know if you've read or if you've seen that. I recommend your listeners read it. It's mind-blowing in the simplicity of how it explains how habits work and how easy it is in process, not necessarily application, but how easy it is in process to change and build habits. But I think the biggest part about it is that emphasizes that hit me was that you have to be deliberate about your habits. Many of the habits that we live day to day happen because we're not paying attention, right? We just do what is natural or what ends up happening. And then that's just what we start doing. Routines kind of just fall into place, and we're not being deliberate about what we want in our routine and why is it there in the first place, and all of these things, right? So if we want to make a change in our lives, we've got to look at our habits and figure out what routines we have, how we can change them to fit and become the life that we want.
I love that. And with that, we can finish our episode. That it was a little bit longer than normal, but I think people need to hear it. And such a great conversation. That's what I wanted. I wanted to record a video that is going to give people some tips everybody can use. And the power of habit is very, very important. They, change your habits, change your lives. Change your life. We have Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about amazing stats that we are actually we are running on autopilot, not even realizing it. And then there was only a small fraction, I think he mentioned it's just a few percent, that is our conscious brain steering the ship, but we seem to be under control. And then we are surprised why we are not under control. So of course, deeper conversation to be had in the future. Sure. Thank you so much, Bronson. I knew it's going to be good. I didn't know it would be as good. Thank you so much, really.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Take care, and bye, everybody. Thank you.